The sole purpose of this video is to provide a basic overview and orientation of your new apparatus. This video is not intended to act as or replace individualized driver-operator training. Individual fire departments may base guidelines, policies, and procedures tailored for best practices. Pierce Manufacturing and Hughes Fire Equipment representatives are not liable for injuries caused from acts resulting from actions inconsistent with the information provided within this video and/or accompanying manuals. Refer to the Operation and Maintenance Manual for complete details relating to the components and features of this apparatus. Only trained personnel should operate this vehicle or perform maintenance. You are responsible for learning how to operate this fire apparatus under all conditions without having to refer to the manual while operating at an emergency incident. This video will discuss types of warnings and caution labels. It is your responsibility to locate and identify each of the labels and understand the importance and associated hazards. Warning labels will point out procedure that must be taken or action that must be avoided to guard against the possibility of serious injury or death. Caution labels will advise you that there is a risk of damage to property if certain precautions are not followed. Continuous training, reviewing of operation and service manuals, developing good standardized practices will assist driver operators with a more complete understanding of the components and operation of this fire apparatus. As the driver operator of this vehicle, you are responsible for understanding the function of each component of the apparatus, maintaining control of the fire apparatus at all times while in operation. Make operational and functional changes while operating at an emergency without having to read operator's instructions or safety warning labels. Operate manual override and emergency shutdown procedures immediately if a component fails to operate properly. Components location may vary with each Pierce fire apparatus. Review the exact location of each component prior to operation. Major inconsistencies between your vehicle and the information contained in this video should be directed to your sales representative. Safe operation of any vehicle is the responsibility of the driver operator. You must learn the location and function of all controls, switches, gauges, valves, inlets, and discharges. Due to a higher center of gravity, heavy trucks have a significantly higher rollover tendency than other types of vehicles. To reduce the risk of rollover, avoid making sharp turns, excessive speed, and avoid abrupt maneuvers. In the event of a rollover crash, an unbelted person is significantly more likely to become injured or die than a person wearing a seatbelt. In the event of a crash, unbuckled occupants can also become a hazard to other occupants, as they may be thrown around inside the cab. Seatbelts are required while in operation. Please refer to your warranty certificates for details and information enclosed in your manuals. Customer-installed equipment must be mounted to withstand road travel and comply with NFPA 1901. Modifications such as drilling holes or welding to structural frame components of the chassis are not permitted. Contact Pierce for instruction and review of non-structural sheet metal or other dissimilar metals for modification. Follow the radio installation guide for further assistance on installing or mounting electronics. Before placing your new apparatus into service, perform a primary inspection of key components of the apparatus, including all fluid levels, anti-lock braking systems, electronic stability control, and automatic traction control. Weigh your apparatus to ensure that it conforms to axle and brake ratings. Never exceed the gross axle rating printed on the label inside the cab. Exceeding these ratings could lead to reduced component life, personal injury, or death. Review the use of auxiliary braking systems, compression brake, exhaust brake, electronic retarder, and hydraulic retarder. Before placing the apparatus in service, refer to the operational maintenance manuals. Information on the operation and maintenance functions for the components such as the pump, pressure governor, and foam systems, along with other options, is provided in either the Pierce manuals and/or other manufacturer support information delivered with the apparatus. If you need more information, please contact Hughes Fire Equipment. Congratulations, Walla Fire Department, Washington, on your new Pierce fire apparatus, job number 37101. Please utilize this 5-digit job number when referencing your apparatus with Hughes Fire Equipment and Pierce Manufacturing. We'll get started on a brief orientation. Starting on the face of the front bumper on the passenger and driver side, you'll find dual air horns. Directly in the center, you'll find the mechanical siren. As we move to the outer edge of the cab area, you'll find a marker turn indicator. Just inside that location is the headlight structure housing low and high beam headlights. The high beam will be located on the inside. Just up from that location, you'll find a turn indicator and forward-facing emergency warning light. As we move up to the windshield, you'll find 3 windshield wipers across the seamless one-piece windshield. Moving to the outer edge, both passenger and driver side are your mirrors housing flat and convex mirrors. Moving just inside the cab at the top behind the windshield is where you'll find your traffic collision avoidance module. Moving up to the brow of the apparatus, you'll find 5 clearance lights, and located in the center, a forward-facing floodlight. As we move up onto the roof of the apparatus, you'll find your emergency warning light bar. Located inside the light bar in the center is your Opticom system. Let's take a look at the full view of the driver's perspective. We'll focus in on the cab section next. We'll start down in the very front with the side-facing emergency warning light. Just inside the stepwell area, you'll find an air inlet. You'll also find your shoreline inlet. Moving up onto the front A-pillar is where you'll find that side-facing identification turn indicator. Easily accessible with a gloved hand, they are keyed door locks. Right next to that is a grab handle for gaining access in and out of the cab. As we move to the rear cab wall, you'll find a LED water tank level indicator indicating the amount of water in your tank. Just above that, a side-facing emergency warning light. Let's take a look at the midsection of the vehicle. We'll start first with the top. There are 3 cross lays located here in the upper portion. As we move further down, you have 2 additional cross lays in the lower portion. There's also a 2.5-inch discharge on the driver's side. The American flag Eagle Pierce logo is your driver's side inlet. And as we move down, you'll find a 2.5-inch auxiliary inlet. Let's take a look at the body section of the vehicle. First, we'll start just in front of the rear axle with a turn indicator marker light. Over the rear axle is your side-facing emergency warning light. And then toward the rear of the apparatus, you have a 360-degree emergency warning light. Let's move to the rear of the apparatus next. We'll identify a few items here. First, starting with your tail lights at the top, you find an emergency warning light, brake, turn, and reverse. You'll also find 2 2.5-inch discharges located in the upper section near the hose bed, and your backup camera located directly in the center. Let's take a look at the passenger side of the vehicle. Same configuration and layout as you have on the driver's side. Quick shot of the body section. We'll move to the midsection where you'll find the gray module, which is your equipment rack power module. This is for raising and lowering. Just beneath that, the white module here is for your cab lift. And then as we move further down, American flag Eagle Pierce logo, passenger side main inlet, 2.5-inch discharge, and at the very bottom section, a 2.5-inch auxiliary inlet. Let's take a look at the forward section of the cab on the passenger side, and then let's move back around now to the driver's side. We'll start by going inside the cab in this space and identifying a few items. Let's take a close-up look down at the stepwell area where you'll find the air inlet, and then right next to that is your shoreline inlet 20 amp. Just up from this location, we'll start first with the door panel. Affixed to the door panel, safety and warning placard information. Also door lock and latch, manual window controls, and a grab handle. When plugged into Shoreline Power, your auto charge status center will illuminate, indicating charging status. You'll also find this yellow placard indicating the date of manufacture, 5-digit job number, gross vehicle weight rating, cold tire inflation, the VIN number, all of the fluid capacities for each component, fluid capacity, and also fluid type. At the floorboard, you'll find a mechanical siren foot pedal. As we move up to about the left knee of the operator, your master battery switch, quarter turn, it's the silver switch. Just to the right, the engine, transmission, ABS J1939 diagnostic port for your maintenance team. Moving further down, ABS diagnostics, DPF regen, engine diagnostics, and regen inhibit switch. As we move upward, you'll find your pump shift. We have instructions here on the placard from road to pump, and then also from pump to road. Just as a reminder, before exiting the cab, you need pump engaged and OK to pump indicators before exiting the cab for pump operations. Just above this location and slightly to the right is where you'll find your hours for your engine. And then as we move further up, you'll find the flat mirror control. Let's move to the dash now. We'll start on the far left-hand side with your start and ignition switch. Just inside, you'll find a switch labeled EM, which stands for Emergency Master. This will engage or disengage all emergency lights. Also, headlight switch and a panel switch, allowing you to brighten or dim lights within preview of the operators. To the right, you'll find the OK to engage the high idle switch and indicator. As we move to the dash cluster, you'll find your transmission, oil, def level, and water temp on the left-hand side of the cluster. On the right, you'll find volts, fuel, front air, and rear air, right side of the cluster. In the center, you'll find your tachometer and speedometer. Diagnostic information will display above and also below the speedometer and tachometer. Let's take a quick look to the right. Just a general view. We'll start at the very top section with a monitor. This is for your backup camera. As we move down, we have some rocker switches. Let's start first on the left with the driver's side flood, passenger side flood, front flood, rear scene, rear work lights. When any of these switches have been activated, the green light will illuminate in the switch itself. As we move further down, we have an engine brake on and off, engine brake for low, medium, and high switch, tire chain, which is protected, off-road traction, mirror heat, and a siren brake for your mechanical siren. As we move just down from this location, you'll find the yellow diamond, which is your pull to apply your system parking brake and push to release. These are your main brakes. To the right, you'll find the Allison transmission pad, digital readout, push button with an informational note to pump in drive. Just to the right of that, you'll find climate control for heat, air conditioning, defrost. As we move further to the right, you'll find the module for your Freedom inverter. Also, you'll find 12-volt barrel style access, mechanical siren, and air horn push buttons. Over the head of the operator, or slightly in front of the operator, you'll find this yellow placard indicating the height of the vehicle, 9 feet 11 inches, the length 33 feet 10 inches, gross vehicle weight rating 42,000 pounds. Also, you'll find Emergency Master, roof light, front warning, side warning, lower rear warning, and upper rear warning emergency lights. Further to the right, you'll find a selector switch for air horn or electric siren, your Opticom switch, a high beam flash, and then also a load manager switch. Moving further to the right, you'll find your unit radio. You'll also find throughout the vehicle these red and white candy cane labels indicating spare wiring behind. Please do not remove. These are indicating the option, also the type of wire and termination that is behind the panel. General view overhead. Once again, this is your vehicle module for your collision avoidance system. You'll also find the do not move your apparatus when this light is on, indicating you have a compartment or door open. Seatbelt information, red indicating someone is in the seat and not belted, green in the seat and belted. As we move exterior, you'll find Goodyear tires, Alcoa wheel, and a visual sight gauge for the front axle.
As we move to the rear section of the cab area, let's go inside. First, start with the door panel. Affixed to the door panel, safety and warning placard information, manual window control, door lock and latch, and a grab handle. As we look overhead, you'll find your air conditioner, also push on and off red or white lens lights. Also in the center, you have additional 12-volt access in between the two seats. You'll also find lift and turn latch will gain you access to the rear portion of the engine for your daily checks for oil and transmission. As we look to the rear wall, you'll find an EMS compartment and also an SCBA forward-facing seat. Inside the compartment, you'll find adjustable shelving, LED lighting, and then also when plugged into Shoreline power, this outlet will become active. On top of this compartment, we have two box lights. Let's go ahead and move back to the exterior portion. And let's take a look at some of the crosslays. Let's take a look at the very top section. Speedlay number 1, this is just in front of the standing position. Also like to point out a warning placard indicating entanglement hazard, and then also speedlay number 2. Let's go ahead and move just to the rear section at the top, where you'll find crosslay 1, crosslay 2, and a 2.5-inch crosslay. As we move to the panel itself, you'll find your manual pump shift. Just to the right, you'll find the 2.5-inch discharge, a warning placard indicating pressure hazard. Caps may be under pressure. Be cautious when opening them. Also, the American flag Eagle Pierce logo is the driver's side main inlet. You'll also find, as we move further down, a 2.5-inch auxiliary. Moving toward the center, you'll find your Watrous placard, which we'll go over in just a few moments. Further to the right, you'll find your pump shift. Down at the very bottom section, we have a direct tank fill. And then down across the very bottom section, you'll find all of our color-coded and labeled discharge drains. Let's go back up to the top, take a look at some close-ups. First, manual pump shift, number 1 driver's side discharge, and also pressure warning hazard. Back to the Watrous placard, you have a capacity of 1,500 GPM. Also has the pump model and transmission model information on the placard. As we move further down, you'll find a foam drain just inside behind the panel, and then also you'll find your main pressure relief. This is the setting screw for that. As we move back down to the very bottom section, you'll find the auxiliary driver's side inlet, color-coded and labeled discharge drains. To the right, main pump drain and direct tank fill. As we move to the walkway area in the bottom section, there is an additional storage location. And now we'll go ahead and start with the pump panel area. At the very top section, general view, we'll start in the gray module where the switches are located, which is closest to the image here. First, with our engine cooler, this is a twist, not a pull. From this location, let's move just to the downward portion where you'll find the fire pump primer. We do have instructions for best practice, at least 1,000 RPMs. Also, if you've engaged your pump, you'll find the OK to pump indicator, and then all of your panel lights, driver's side flood, passenger side spare, also mechanical siren, siren brake, and air horn switch. As we move just to the left in the gray module, you'll find your master intake gauge. Just to the right of that is the master discharge gauge. In between the two of those at the bottom is the test gauge ports for vacuum and pressure. They're currently plugged, and these are utilized for testing purposes. Also, you'll find an audible speaker just below that. As we move to the very far left, you'll find your rear inlet. This is an electronically controlled valve, open and close. You'll also find your reel blowout, and then also some warning placards. Let's go over those. First, fall hazard, never ride on the vehicle while it is in motion. As we move to the right, you'll find your minimum operation maintenance schedule for your testing. We'll go over that in just a second. Also a warning placard that only trained personnel should operate this piece of equipment, and that's only after they've had proper training. Let's go back to the minimum operation maintenance schedule for 150, 200, and 250 test pressures. On the left is the associated GPM for that test pressure. On the right is the associated RPM for that test pressure. Governed speed, 2,400 RPMs. Job number 37101 in the upper left-hand corner. As we move to all of our discharges, they're color-coded and labeled. As we move to the center, you'll find your pressure throttle governor. Incorporated inside that is a water tank level indicator. As we move to the rear cab wall, it's where you'll find an additional hand tool. And let's go ahead and start looking in some of the compartments, starting on the driver's side. First, adjustable shelves, LED lighting. Let's start at the very top section. When plugged into shoreline power, these outlets will become active. As we move up to the top section, you'll find on the vertical side sheet here, this is your S1 breaker panel. When plugged into shoreline power, that's active. You'll also find your inverter, and the yellow placard indicates its amount of power that it will provide. We also have, when plugged into shoreline power, your air compressor will activate when low pressure and maintain brakes, and then also auto charge for your battery charge system. As we move now to the next compartment to the rear, just in front of the rear axle, you'll find SCBA bottle storage with retaining straps. Also to the rear of the axle, an additional SCBA bottle storage with retaining strap. Your ultra low sulfur diesel fill, which is the silver cap. Let's go back to that SCBA bottle storage. And then we'll move back down to the rear axle. Once again, Goodyear tire, Alcoa wheel. As we move to the rear of the axle, once again, ultra low sulfur diesel fill is the silver cap, single SCBA bottle storage, and then also the flap will move downward, exposing the blue cap, which is your 4.5 US gallon DEF tank. Directly over tool board, when it's open, it will lock into position. Release is on the back side of the tool board. As we move to the next compartment back, adjustable shelving at the very bottom section, a pull-out tray. The release mechanism for that tray is located on the right. It will lock into position. All compartments open. Let's take a look now at the rear section of the apparatus. We've identified a few highlighted items, but let's start first on the left side with a cupped switch. This is for your rear scene lights. As we move upward and toward the center area, you'll find driver's side discharge, also a warning placard indicating pressure hazard. Caps may be under pressure. Be cautious when opening them. And also, when climbing onto the vehicle, always face the vehicle. You'll also find an entanglement hazard. This is because from the lines coming above, there's the possibility of entanglement, and then also your backup camera. Also to the far right, passenger side rear discharge, 2.5 inch. As we look to the general section, you have 4 hose bed dividers. As we move downward, you'll find the rear inlet. This is the electrically controlled valve to the rear. That's the Pierce American Flag Eagle. Also, booster line located in the very bottom section with a push button for rewind. Also a manual rewind just underneath that, and fold down steps on the right and left side for gaining access to your hose bed. This is the air blade inlet. General view, all compartments on the side. Doors are open. Let's start at the rear of the apparatus. Same configuration and layout for the most part. Adjustable shelves, LED lighting, and a pull-out tray on the very bottom. Just as a reminder, the release for that tray is located on the far right-hand side. As we move to the center section directly over the rear axle, SCBA bottle storage. To the rear section, we also have an oxygen bottle storage location here. That's in the upper left-hand corner. Adjustable shelf, LED lighting once again. Back down to the rear axle, Goodyear tire, Alcoa wheel. Just in front of the axle, SCBA bottle storage for 3 bottles with retaining straps. As we move further down, you'll find a warning placard here regarding extremely hot diesel exhaust temperatures. Be cautious where you park your vehicle, especially during regen operations for safety. Moving just up from that location, you'll find adjustable shelving, LED lighting, ventilation in the roll-up compartment door. At the top section, you'll also find a shoreline inverter outlet. We'll move now to the mid-section. We'll start at the very top section. Once again, warning, entanglement hazard because those lines coming from aloft, the 2.5 and number 1 and number 2 crosslay. Inside the pan door is where you're going to find the reservoir for your equipment rack. On the back side of the door is where you'll find also the type of hydraulic fluid. At the very top, you'll find a warning placard indicating entanglement hazard because of those crosslays. Also in the gray module, your powered equipment rack control module. Moving further down, you'll also find a warning regarding fall hazard. Never ride on the vehicle while it's in motion, and always face the vehicle while climbing onto it. At the very bottom, you'll find your cab lift. There are also instructions for raise and lower, and a caution and danger placard. You do have instructions on the powered equipment rack. I just want to point out the danger placard because of its movement. Also, you'll find a warning placard, pressure hazard, caps may be under pressure, large diameter pump inlet, and also a 2.5-inch discharge on the passenger side. Moving down on the lower section of the panel is where you're going to find your foam outlet. You'll also find a foam flush. This is a twist, not a pull. Moving further down, a warning placard regarding foam failure. Do not mix different brands or consistencies of foam for the possibility of foam failure. Moving just to the right in the lower section of the pump panel, you'll find your primer drain, all of our color-coded and labeled discharge drains, and an auxiliary side inlet. Let's move just under the running board where you'll also find your manifold drain. Moving to the walk-through space, you'll also find on this side an additional storage location. And now we'll go ahead and move toward the cab section. Starting at the rear section of the cab, let's start first with the door panel. Affixed to that door panel, safety and warning placard information, door lock and latch, manual window control, and a grab handle. As we move inside, once again, air conditioning unit in the upper section, push on and off white or red lens lights. And then as we move just inside at the hinge point, you'll find red grab handles for gaining access in and out of the cab. You'll also find 2 rear-facing SCBA seats and a forward-facing seat. As we move to the outside, Goodyear tire, Alcoa wheels, visual sight gauge indicator on the front axle. Let's move now into the officer space. Before we do that, let's start with the door panel. Affixed to the panel, safety and warning placard information, door lock and latch, manual window controls, and then also a grab handle. On the dash itself, on the left, you'll find 12-volt access via barrel style. Also on the A-pillar down the lower portion is where you'll find the fill location for your windshield wiper fluid. Let's take a look overhead, just a general view. This is the location in the center is where you'll find your unit radio. Let's go ahead and take a look outside with your ladder rack deployed. First, let's start with the top section, 10-foot attic ladder, 2 long-handled tools, an additional hand tool, a 24-foot extension, and a 14-foot roof ladder. Let's move now to the hose bed area. General view. You can see the 4 hose bed dividers. They are movable. As we move more toward the dunnage area, the front section of the hose bed, you'll find your water tank fill and foam fill. This is top fill for water. As we move to the foam tank, you will find a warning placard also on the top fill location. Warning, do not mix different brands or consistencies of foam for the possibility of foam failure. General view here of the upper portion. We'll move now to the cab area. Just as a reminder, this is a non-walking surface, even though it does have 4-way. We do have these placards indicating that it is a non-walking surface. The next set of images are going to be that of the cab chassis, cab tilt, engine, and underbody area. Let's start with first, when the cab is fully tilted, it's important that you place the safety bar, which is in the next image here, in position. Once that is in position, do not lower the cab onto the safety bar. It is required that both cylinders remain equal pressure for holding your cab upright. On the driver's side, in the lower section of the battery box, is where you'll find your negative and positive terminals, jumper locations. You'll also find the hydraulic reservoir for your cab tilt located in this area. This will conclude the additional images of the cabin chassis area. Congratulations, Walla Walla Fire Department, Washington, on your new Pierce fire apparatus, job number 37101. If you have any questions regarding your apparatus, please contact your Hughes Fire sales representative. Thank you and congratulations.